What happens when someone has authority they were never officially given, or when someone has accountabilities they don't even realize they own? COSO ICIF Principle 3 drives improved clarity in reporting lines and authorization. Welcome back to this series on the 17 principles of the COSO Internal Control Integrated Framework, where we break down each principle in plain language and connect it to real business, risk, audit, and governance situations. In this clip, we're looking at Principle 3, which sits under the control environment component. Principle 3 says, management establishes structures, reporting lines, and appropriate authorities and responsibilities. That might sound formal and technical, but the core idea is very practical. In plain language, Principle 3 is about making sure the organization is clearly designed. People need to know who they're accountable to, what they're responsible for, what decisions they can make independently, and who owns risks and controls. A strong organization makes accountability visible, because when structure is unclear, internal control starts to depend on memory, personality, informal relationships, and assumptions, and that's risky. Principle 3 belongs to the control environment, which is the foundation of internal control. The control environment is not just about ethics or board oversight, it's also about whether the organization is built in a way that facilitates effective control design and effective control operation. You can have strong values, capable people, and good policies, but if reporting lines are unclear, authority is vague, and no one knows who owns key controls, the system can still fail. Let's go back to those two questions at the top. A director has a $10,000 purchasing limit. One time they sign off on a software purchase for $10,500. It's a small difference, so it's overlooked. The following year it's $11,000. It's just $500 more than last time, so no big deal. But minor infractions have now translated into tolerated behavior. What about the director's VP, who was supposed to sign off? Perhaps it turns out they weren't aware of the limit, so they didn't realize it was their responsibility to authorize that purchase. This hypothetical situation illustrates how deterioration in a control environment can occur slowly. Imagine an organization where no one is clearly responsible for cybersecurity risk, privacy incidents, vendor management, financial reporting approvals, or compliance monitoring. Those risks may not be ignored intentionally, they may simply fall into the gaps between departments. Principle 3 asks whether management has created the structure needed to support effective control ownership and whether the board has provided appropriate oversight of that structure. The COSO objectives, operations, reporting, and compliance, represent the three areas that should be represented in organizational goals. Let's look at how this principle applies across those objectives. For operations, clear structure helps work get done efficiently. It reduces duplication, confusion, bottlenecks, and missed handoffs. This also requires clear communication across workflows to communicate the structure and validate the established rules are understood and being adhered to. For reporting, it clarifies who prepares information, who reviews it, who approves it, and who's accountable for completeness, accuracy, and timeliness. For compliance, it makes sure legal, regulatory, contractual, and policy responsibilities are assigned to the right people. I note here that there is an expectation for organizations to validate and demonstrate their own compliance, which in itself hinges on people within the organization being aware of their accountability. So, whether the organization is trying to deliver services, produce reliable reports, or meet regulatory obligations, clear authority and responsibility matter. When Principle 3 is weak, you often hear phrases like, I figured finance was handling that. I didn't need approval for that, did I? No one told me that was my responsibility. How was I supposed to know you needed that information? Weakness in this principle can lead to unclear accountability, poor segregation of duties, missed opportunities due to slow decision making, operations approved at the wrong level, control gaps after restructuring, duplicated work, and even management override where powerful individuals bypass normal processes because authority limits are not well defined. Sometimes the problem is poor design rather than malicious intent. So what would some strong controls look like? A few examples include regular org chart reviews, checking authority against formal delegation and RACI matrices, system-enforced approval routing for spending, contracts, hiring, and system access, assigning named owners to key risks and controls, periodic access and authority reviews including segregation of duties, reviews of those delegation and RACI matrices, and conducting control impact assessments after reorganizations or major system changes. Some people think this is just over-engineered bureaucracy, but these activities support clarity. People should know what they own, what they can approve, and when they need to escalate. Remediating accountability gaps and power creep the moment they are identified. Accountability cannot be transferred, but responsibility can. You can offload some of the risk to third parties, but make sure the scope is defined, ownership is clear, and oversight is maintained. Evidence at different levels of maturity might look like the following. An org chart is obviously foundational, but only the starting point. Whether the structure actually works in practice needs to be demonstrated. Consider keeping and maintaining control descriptions, especially for executive and leadership roles. Delegation and RACI matrices reviewed or updated within the last 12 months. Evidence of review of those after major organizational changes. Committee terms of reference. Documented risk and control ownership. Periodic system access reviews, automated approval workflows. A mature organization can show that accountability is documented, communicated, monitored, and adjusted as the business evolves. For business professionals, Principle 3 means know your role, know what you can do within your authority, and know what you can't, and know when to escalate or get clarification. You might not be the only one who's unclear. You should be able to answer, what am I accountable for? What needs approval? Whom do I report issues to? And what documentation do I need to keep? This isn't only about protecting the organization, it also protects the employees. When responsibility is clear, people are less likely to be blamed for the things they were never empowered or instructed to manage. Auditors must look beyond the hierarchy and reporting lines. When evaluating control design, what is not written down is often more problematic than what is. Undocumented risks won't have defined owners. Undocumented roles won't have descriptions and limitations on authority. Undocumented processes cannot be reviewed and evaluated for accountability gaps. Undocumented approvals for access or authority result in power creep. Auditors must look at the edges to find the gaps. When evaluating control operation, auditors must maintain skepticism about evidence and ask whether the evidence truly demonstrates the control objective was met. Minor exceptions overlooked may foster complacency, and testimony must be grounded in policy. An approver self-validating their authority to approve may hide power creep, so ask to see where that authority comes from. For the board, Principle 3 is about oversight. The board does not design every reporting line, but it should ask whether management structure is appropriate for the organization's size, complexity, strategy, and risk profile. The board should be asking, are key risks clearly owned? Are compliance, finance, technology, and internal audit functions properly positioned? Are there unresolved accountability gaps? Are authority levels appropriate? Are escalation channels working? And does the structure still make sense after growth, restructuring, outsourcing, or digital transformation? The board's job is to make sure management has built an organization that can actually achieve its objectives with control and accountability. The key takeaway is that COSO Principle 3 makes accountability real. Internal controls do not work well when responsibility is vague. They work when people know their roles, reporting lines, authority limits, and escalation paths. Because one of the most dangerous phrases in any organization is, I thought someone else was handling that. That was Principle 3 of the COSO Internal Control Integrated Framework. Leave a comment below and click the like button if you found this useful. Subscribe for more videos on this topic. In the next clip, we're going to look at Principle 4, the organization's commitment to attracting, developing, and retaining competent individuals.